theaters are filled with adventure, and Go-Go Squeeze is there for every run, jump, step of the way. Made from wholesome ingredients like 100% fruit and veggies, real yogurt, and no artificial anything. In Go Anywhere pouches, so our kids can keep going wherever their adventures take them. Go-Go Squeeze. You make the memories, we'll make the snacks. Find us in the applesauce aisle. Let's go!
You are listening to New Theory Radio.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of New Theory Radio, here live on News Talk, Saga 960 AM. My name is Nav Nanwa, I'm your host, and this is the show where we theorize on all things arts and pop culture. Thank you so much for tuning in on this beautiful Sunday early evening or late afternoon, depending on what you want to call it. I'm currently recording this live from a bit of a small getaway up at Niagara-on-the-Lake. But yes, I hope you've been enjoying your summer so far. We did take a bit of a break last week, but we did decide during that break to revisit a few awesome conversations that we had with guests that are now involved in the Meta Arts Festival, which actually kicked off this week. It's a festival that I actually curate, so anyone that was able to check out last week's episode as well as the first week of the festivities, thank you so much. We're back again this Thursday on our Facebook page as well as our Twitch and YouTube page, so do check us out at metaartsfest.ca. But Meta was last week. Now it's time to move forward with some new theories here on New Theory Radio, and I'm very excited to welcome our pop culture panel that's going to help me dissect a few topics that have to do with the world of content. So on our pop culture panel, I have filmmaker Neha Modgil as well as videographer Benji Agbeke, and we are going to be talking about a few things. We are going to be talking about Instagram Reels. So Instagram Reels is a brand new platform that Instagram has come out with that's supposed to combat TikTok. It's very similar. It's 15-second videos, short form content. You get to use music and you get to use text. But a lot of people feel that it's a blatant copy of TikTok. And considering all the news that's been going on with TikTok and the fact that the U.S. government is trying to ban it, or President Trump and specifically is trying to ban it, we've just been seeing a lot of interesting developments within this space. And Instagram dropping Reels during this time does make for some interesting timing. So I get both Neha and Benji to chime in on that. And then we also are going to be talking about movie theaters. So it was announced this week that Disney's live action feature Mulan is actually going to bypass movie theaters and be released on Disney Plus. And again, we are amidst a pandemic, so a lot of people feel that this move was inevitable. But what does that truly mean for movie theaters now when you're starting to see these big budget films go straight to streaming services? It's been one of those things that a lot of people have been predicting over the last few months, and even with us in Ontario being in stage 3, movie theaters are open. I believe it's a limit of 50 people that can actually watch a movie at the same time. But is it really safe to go watch a movie, and do people feel comfortable engaging in these experiences? And if you're a production house or a filmmaker, is the new normal being releasing your big budget movie through a streaming service where you would have more eyes seeing your content versus actually going to a movie theater and paying money for not just the movie ticket but for the concessions to go check it out? Quite the interesting conversation when it comes to just the future of movie theaters and what things will look like as we move forward into the future, and both Benji and Neha talk about that with me as well. And then we are going to bring back our NTR Spotlight, as we are going to be profiling somebody that I've been wanting to have on the show for quite some time. She is the owner and artistic director of Jade's Hip Hop Academy, located in Brampton. It is my good friend Jade Jager Clark, who's going to be joining me on the show for our NTR Spotlight segment. Jade's a phenomenal individual, someone who if you ask me, is definitely at the top of the list when it comes to Canadian dance studios and dance instructors. She's done work all across with many different individuals, like the Toronto Raptors, like with Director X. She's been featured on national television. She's been given social media endorsements by the likes of Paul Abdul and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. She's done stuff with Masai Ujiri and the Giants of Africa. We touch on all of that and more, and just the transition and the pivots that Jade has had to make during the last few months of the pandemic. As you know, at one point, movie studios and fitness centers were forced to close down when we were at the peak of the pandemic, and now with phase 3, they are starting to open up again. So we talk about some of the changes that Jade has been making to ensure that, number one, she can operate her studio again, but number two, making sure that she does it in a safe manner for not only her students, but other individuals that may be coming into contact with their facility, which I might add is a brand new facility, and it's 8,000 square feet. So we talk about this gigantic move that she made as well. All this and more on this week's edition of New Theory Radio, so do thank you again for tuning in. We are going to take a quick commercial break, but when I come back, we are going to be talking about Instagram's new platform, Reels, and whether or not it's going to take over when it comes to the TikTok audience here on News Talk, Saga 960 AM.
You are listening to New Theory Radio. Pop Culture Panel.
We are back here on New Theory Radio, here live on News Talk, Saga 960 AM. My name is Nav Nanwa, I'm your host, and this is the show we theorize on arts and pop culture. And it is about that time for our pop culture panel, and I'm super excited to welcome two really awesome creatives that are going to be joining me for the next hour or so to talk about some of the key topics from this week that really affected pop culture and the world of arts. Joining me first is an individual who has years of experience in media production. This individual has had the opportunity to create content for high-level clients across North America, such as, and not limited to, Adidas, Jordan Brand, Nike, MLFC, Levelwear Apparel, Roots, and WeWork. And as a video producer, cinematographer, editor, and photographer, he has worked and published on platforms like Vice UK, The Fader, CTV News, and Yahoo Sports Canada. And we're super excited to have him here on the show. It is my good friend, Benji Agbeke. Benji, thanks so much for making time for us, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no, 100%. Thank you for having me today. It's a pleasure.
Awesome. And our second panelist is actually someone who's no stranger to Saga 960 AM, as well as somebody who actually has a movie coming out as a part of the International Film Festival of South Asia, which just recently kicked off virtually on August 6th. She is a well-established photographer and film director, born and raised in Mississauga, Ontario. Her passion for performing in fine arts has been the backbone of her work. While keeping her Canadian and Punjabi roots close, she aims to produce work that reflects both cultures and believes that her shared cultural experiences are her identity and are equally reflected in any project that she creates. And she actually had worked on a music video called Status Symbol, which crossed over 1 million views on YouTube. And we're so excited to have her on the show. It is my good friend, Neha Modgil. Neha, thanks so much.
Thank you so much for having me, Nav. It's great to join this panel for sure.
Awesome. After reading both of your bios, I feel like I haven't done much in my life. So. But one of the things that I wanted to talk to both of you about, and I thought it'd be kind of cool based on both of your video backgrounds to touch on two video-esque topics. So the first one has to do with Instagram. So it's always interesting when Instagram's in the news. Sometimes they're in the news for good things. Sometimes they're in the news for bad things. But this week, people were pretty indifferent. Instagram launched a TikTok-like application called Reels, which is currently within the Instagram platform. So similar to TikTok, it's a short-form video app. It lets users record and edit 15-second videos with audio, and then they can add visual effects to it. And again, this is really, a lot of people are looking at this as Instagram's response to TikTok. And TikTok obviously being in the news over the last few days, it sounds like, President Trump is trying to ban TikTok. So again, Instagram's timing is quite interesting. But I want to get both of your perspectives on this. This very much feels like Instagram is doing what they did a few years ago when they came out with Instagram stories as a way to combat Snapchat. And let's kind of open it up to some thoughts regarding what you guys felt when you heard about this story. Maybe Neha, will begin with you.
Yeah, it was actually interesting to see how Instagram is now using Reels to, combat the TikTok fear of it being banned. So, with TikTok, it's a source of entertainment, right? It's a quick and easy way to see, what's out there and just connect with other individuals based on what they're doing, right? Like these silly little acts, like it's really nice to have people engage in them, and you see like, the young and the older generation like coming together. So for me, it's actually quite entertaining, just, to see that. But to Instagram, like in that perspective, like there's always going to be a competition, I think, in terms of social media, to see like, hey, if you have that, we can generate it too based on our platform and see if it works. So it's cool to see that innovation, but I don't know if it's innovation per se, but I feel that, there's always a competition of some sort to say like, we're going to be better than that, or like, we can incorporate that in our app. It's interesting to see how that works, but I don't know if everyone will use it. And it comes down to that, what are people more comfortable using and what appeals to them more, compared to like, what TikTok went through. It's very like related to it hype. So it started with that, and like that interest builds, and then now, I have Reels, or I have another app. Like, how many apps do you want me to have when I'm producing the same kind of content, right? Like I really feel like that. So when I heard about it, I'm like, wait, there's another feature? Like, okay, as if, I'm not already hooked on Instagram as it is, but now I have something else to add. So it's a hit or a miss, I think, depending on what appeals to you and what you're trying to do with it, I think.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point that you bring up, because I think with Instagram, their thinking is probably, why, because, and I feel like right now Instagram, in my opinion, is probably the number one social media app, and that's without me looking at any data. But everyone I know is on IG, and like it's always going down in the DM, and like it's always just IG seems to be like a lot of people's sort of central social media platform when it comes to getting information. So it sounds like Instagram is trying to take advantage of that and is probably trying to find ways to keep people within the app. But no, I totally get what you're saying. Like there is this app fatigue almost that exists, because one of my buddies just flipped me a link this week to Thriller, which is another like TikTok style app, which I thought was interesting. Benji, what were some of your thoughts when it came to Instagram?
Well, in my eyes, Instagram is always the juggernaut. Or I won't even say just Facebook's company as a whole is always the juggernaut with, whenever something comes out, they're either looking for a way to one-up it, like literally trump it down to the point where that app is no longer significant, or find a way to be able to buy it out. So, I mean, I'm not going to lie, I'm not really surprised that they would make a move like this in response to TikTok potentially being banned in the US. Now, I would say this. I feel as if with the slight scare for the American people, or at least the people that it would be affected by the most, they'll probably give Reels a try. But I don't think Reels can compare to TikTok right now, because it's still almost the version 1. So I think typically in the first iteration of it, like people aren't going to be amazed. But I think once they get the feedback and people say, we don't like this, we want this better, we want these types of changes, that's when it's going to be able to come back and be even stronger. Because I almost look at it back at like what you referenced before, like when Snapchat had become in battle with Instagram because they started doing stories. It's like initially, I'm sure a lot of people were kind of on the fence, and they're like, I don't know if this is really going to be a thing. Like, should we really use this? Then the minute they started adding different filters, features, different ways you can, integrate different media, you can swipe up and, add a website link, or if you want to be able to tag music, it's like, okay, now it's getting more intuitive. Now it's getting more interesting for like users to be able to engage with it. So I think it's definitely going to be that next step up before it really trumps TikTok to the point where people like, we may not use this anymore, right? But I do agree with Dan in the sense where it does get exhaustive having so many different apps. You're like, okay, well, I have to post it here. Now I have to post it here. I have to post it here. And you're like, if you could just post it all in one, it would be great. And it's like Instagram, Facebook, they're trying to make that integration, but it's like, it's going to take some time before it's the best version where people will leave the initial that they fell in love with behind.
Yeah, and usually, when Facebook makes a move like this, and again, I remember with Snapchat, and this is when they started to introduce stories. Apparently, Facebook had tried to buy Snapchat, and Snapchat said no. So it was almost like an FU to them, being like, all right, well, we're going to create our own. Exactly. Who knows in this situation if there was, some type of conversation. I'll have to double check between Facebook and TikTok regarding acquisition. My gut tells me that when TikTok started to blow up, there probably were a couple people that were like, oh, maybe we should just buy them out because they're obviously creating a lot of hype. Or maybe it's a situation where, again, people started to notice that TikTok was being used quite frequently, especially during this pandemic, that Instagram was like, hey, we need to jump on this now. Like, we need to just go all in. We need to create our own because people are leaving our app to use another app. But, yeah, like it's funny to see the feedback online because some people are looking at this as another blatant move by Facebook to really just clone another service, and they're looking at Facebook as this social media monopoly, right? Of, hey, they're just being the big bad, social medium that's trying to take over. What do you guys feel about that? Does that resonate with you?
I feel that, Facebook always has tried to, be the social media, king or queen, you could say, right? Like, I want to own everything and like, I want everything connected to Facebook. And I think over the years when it first started, like I myself, like I was like, what is Facebook when it first launched, right? And getting into that hype, and that just changed, everything related to how you connect with people, right? So if that was the main goal, it was definitely successful. But now it's like, there's a race to compete. There's a race to like, I want this feature and this feature. But at the same time, like, are you still holding up to the fact that, hey, I want to connect with others and share my content and share, what I want to share to the world and social media? Like, is that still, in play here, or is it, so much more than that now? Yeah. So I think that's like where the hit or miss comes from my part. Again, it comes down to your business, right? Like if you're just trying to stay in touch with family, maybe they're all overseas and Facebook is the only common thread that holds you, to interact, for example. But then it comes down to your business outlook, like, hey, like where can I engage my audience more? Like what can I post? Or like, where am I going to get the best, output in terms of interaction, engagement? So I think it comes down to that too. But I have a feeling like, Facebook is always trying to be, like I want to own everything or I want to create something that's similar. I don't know if Benji feels the same way, but I really feel I'm seeing that now as social media is evolving. But yeah, that's like my take on it.
Yeah. Benji, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I guess just budding off of her point, when you're just thinking about like community, it's like, here's the differentiator with TikTok versus Instagram for me. And it's like Instagram is already developed into this community where you can know what to expect every time you go. It's like adding reels in. I don't necessarily think you're going to be growing a more organic community. You're more so just adding on to what you have. So that's almost the downside that Instagram has with trying to come into the game like this. Whereas TikTok, if you're, new to this and you want to be able to try to build something organic, or if you want to rebrand yourself, it's really easy to do that and just quantum leap your growth because you're in a new platform where they don't have a preconceived notion of you based on whatever your Instagram was.
Yeah.
So I can go on to TikTok and be a completely different person and blow up, and people are like, whoa, I see your Instagram. It doesn't look or feel the same, but it's like, right. I guess that's the presented opportunity with the separate app. But I guess going back to the actual question itself, I see Facebook doing these types of moves all the time. Even in a slightly different related news, Shopify had announced that they wanted to be able to launch something called Shops, and they wanted to really integrate that with their platform where all the vendors can be able to solicit their products or services free of charge, and Facebook said, hey, we're going to revamp our Facebook marketplace, add a portion of it, call it shop. So they took the name, took the S out of it, integrated it. And in the end, what ended up happening is they ended up partnering together. So I'm like, wow, like Facebook trumped them, made them partner with them so they can get a bigger half of their market share. I'm like, they literally just want everything in the game. So they're very tactical, and I think I'm almost thinking Reels might have been something where either they've been developing it and waiting for a while to launch it, and maybe they're like, this is the time we're going to strike right now.
Yeah.
Or other company may have been developing it, and they said, okay, let's buy them right now, actually integrate it into what we have with our Instagram platform, and then just see how it does with our fans, right?
Yeah, the timing is definitely paramount considering what's in the news right now with TikTok, and even this entire week was Donald Trump wants to ban TikTok from the US, and even before that you'd heard about India wanting to ban TikTok, and there's always been this privacy conversation around TikTok and just how they're maybe recording a lot of your data behind the scenes, right? And again, it's very opportunistic that this week when that was at a peak high, and there's probably a lot of fear or a lot of fear-mongering that's going on in the U.S. when it comes to TikTok, that Instagram just shows up, be like, hey, we got Reels, and, we're going to try to capture a lot of that market share that TikTok has, and maybe say, hey, we're definitely more secure and definitely more acceptable to when it comes to, your privacy and making sure that exists. But, yeah, it's an interesting one. One thing I wanted to kind of let you guys know is, I've had some conversations with TikTok in the past, just in my normal life. And one of the things that I always find interesting about TikTok too is just their mindset. Like they don't really consider themselves like a social media platform. They consider themselves an entertainment platform, which I always thought was interesting, because if you're going to TikTok, there's a lot of people I know that have TikTok accounts that don't make videos, but they have them because they want to watch videos, right? And I always found that to be an interesting differentiator. And, when you think about Facebook and the moves that they've made, Benji, you touched on the moves in the e-commerce space, but even, there was Facebook Watch, right? Which was like their streaming platform that they were trying to put out there as well. It has this big takeover mentality where, if you're consuming any type of screen time, Facebook wants to be at the forefront of that. But just to kind of ladder up to that thought, you guys are both content creators. You guys are both really rely heavily on video to really get your work out there. Does a Reels excite you? Like, does having more avenues like that excite you in regards to being able to foster some more creativity?
I think for me personally, like, it's something that, we'd have to try out to see, depending on what you're trying to put out there. If it's like the 1 minute Instagram videos or the IGTV, depending on that. And now I looked into it, it was kind of like the platform is similar to TikTok in terms of like effects and all of that. So like, in terms of that, again, it comes down to entertainment, right? If you're trying to follow the same TikTok route, but like, in terms of putting something out there, like, you have to do, a significant amount of editing before it even like reaches, a platform, for example, right? Like, I wouldn't just, take footage and like just add effects. Okay, here, like, this is my Reels, or like, here's my contribution. And like, at the same time, you're trying to build a brand, right? You're trying to like add to your brand. And that comes down to, what are you putting out there? Because people are going to see that, they're going to be like, oh, this is just like, anyone can do this, right? Like, it's just, TikTok, and it's not supposed to be looked at as something that's more serious, with all the effects or editing and like, the work that goes into it. So for me, like, I would be like hesitant. I would probably try it like personally, like how I do for TikTok, and then kind of, see, okay, would this work in terms of my content, right? What do I want to like put out there? What do I want people to see? And what experience do I want them to have while they're watching it? But again, it's like a hit or a miss for me. Like, I think I still have to get used to it. It's like, oh, there's another feature. Okay, sure. Well, I'll try it soon, right? But for now, like, it's not as significant for me personally. But again, it comes down to like, what are you watching, right? Like, what do you want that experience to be, and how do you want viewers to see it?
Benji, what about you? Are you going to be the next big Reels influencer?
To be honest, I don't necessarily know if that would be a feature that I would, take full advantage of. It's not. I don't know. I feel as if I've looked at it and I could see where it benefits certain type of creators and people want to put their stuff out there. But I think I've stepped a little bit back from that style a bit because I'm just like, you know what? I want to be able to build my personal brand, but I guess I'm looking at more of the back end stuff of my business before the front end with, let's say, things like this in marketing. And I think maybe if I'm getting back into the swing of shoots maybe every other few days and I want to be able to show the process, make it fun, I think that's one way I would use it, more of a BTS thing rather than, create something new and upload it on there. Yeah. So I don't know. It's hard for me to really guess if this is going to be something that I would really use often, but if I did, that's what I think would be probably the best way to utilize it.
Mm-hmm. Just to kind of close up this conversation, we've all seen how a lot of people, when IG stories came out, switched from Snapchat to IG stories. I was one of them. I actually just recently deleted Snapchat, but it sounds like if you look at the data, Snapchat is still being used quite frequently. So shout outs to all the listeners that are users of Snapchat. But do you predict that this shift will take place? Like, do you think because of the easeability of Reels being within Instagram and the fact that there's people probably that already have followings on Instagram that they could leverage versus going on to TikTok and creating brand new followings, do you see a similar behavior taking place over the next, I would say, year or two? And maybe Benji will begin with you.
I think it's going to depend on a few different things. So kind of like that point I mentioned before about the different versions of it, and I guess just how well it can level up each time around with, the feedback that it gets from its users. I think another big play also is if it does end up getting bought out by Microsoft, like Trump wants, like, is Microsoft really going to help elevate the platform, or is it going to just be a stagnant thing? So if users don't, I feel as if users are getting everything they could expect out of it right now. Mm-hmm. But if there's any type of stagnant behavior with the company where, like people don't get what they need in terms of content creation, and if at the same time Instagram is working on these features that are giving those people the things that they want, that's a perfect opportunity for Instagram to come in and take that market share. And it could be something where, yeah, people do leave it eventually and say, like, I don't want to use TikTok anymore because, like, this has everything I need. My community is all transferred over. The filters and editing options are better than TikTok. It's like everything needs to be elevated beyond what they were using before. And it has to really be almost like a seamless transition from moving the engagement and following from one platform to the other.
Mm-hmm. Neha, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think I agree with Benji in that because, if it doesn't create something different or innovative in that way, something new, I can create this effect or something that will, put an interesting, hat on this, the same video content, right? And engage it again into Instagram and whatnot, then I don't think like it's going to be as hyped up as you would think. Because TikTok in itself, like I recently started using it through quarantine. I was like, you know what, let me just check it out, like for fun, like what's going on, right? And it's so like it's used so much and people are on it all the time and creating content, which is great. Like, they're doing something with their time, but like in terms of like the switch, I don't know, like people will have to get used to it. And like, now it's Reels. Oh, okay. Like what's that? Right. Like, so I think they have to get used to that culture and like in Instagram itself. Because, when you think of Instagram, you go on, you can see all the posts you like, your feed, you can, connect with your audience that way. But again, like Benji said, I agree with that too. Like you need to see where it's coming from. What more do I have? Like, is it going to be interesting? Is it going to be fun for me? Right. I think that's another aspect in terms of like comparing it to TikTok. So yeah, I think it's going to be a gradual change, if anything. I don't know if it'll be used more than what TikTok is using like now, but you never know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely an interesting story that we'll keep tabs on. And again, this is just another prime example of just how screen consumption is taking over our lives, and we'll see if a lot of us IG users will eventually adapt Reels, and maybe a year from now, instead of saying, hey, check me out on TikTok, might be saying, hey, check me out on Reels within your IG app.
Right.
Like that might be the behavior, right? Well, we'll have to test that one out. We are going to switch gears, and I want to talk about the fact that Disney announced this week that the live-action version of Mulan is actually going to move to a Disney Plus release in the fall versus it being released in movie theaters. And it seems like this is a prime outcome coming out of the current pandemic that we're in. And a lot of people actually within the movie industry were predicting that this move was going to take place eventually. But it's actually sparked a conversation, mainly online, regarding what this means for the future of movie theaters. Obviously, we're in Ontario, so we're in stage 3, where movie theaters are allowed to be open with, I believe, a maximum of 50 people per screening. And Neha, you actually have a movie that's a part of a film festival called IFFSA, which we had Sunny Gill on a few weeks ago. And again, he's had to shift that film festival to become virtual because of the current pandemic. But would love to get both your thoughts on this. Right now, we're all probably signed up to many different subscription services. I know people that have Netflix, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, you name it, they got it. And during this pandemic, it feels like it's a lot more normal to tune into a lot of these big budget blockbusters from home versus going to a movie theater, especially with everything going on. So Neha, we'll begin with you because you have a movie that's premiering, and I believe it's called Just Breathe. Am I correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
And it's actually premiering, I guess, in a couple days on the IFFSA virtual platform. Before pandemic, it was supposed to be premiering at an actual movie theater. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like this is going to be something normal as a filmmaker yourself that you're just going to have to get used to moving forward?
I mean, given the current situation, the pandemic, safety and health is first, right? You don't want to compromise with that. Again, comparing it to, a release, the excitement is there. Everyone's, comes in and the, friends and family are there. You get to watch something that you've created and worked on together on a big screen. And I think that experience is always going to be special to me, no matter what. I always hold that dear because you can put me in a movie theater, I can stay there all day. That's me. That experience is very, very special. But again, given the fact that we do have a pandemic at hand, that is definitely a little bit disappointing. You're not going to have that same kind of feel, but at the same time, that doesn't give you any less chance to not celebrate what you've created, right? You're in a different platform. It's still going to be virtual, so that's fine. At least the audience will be tuning in a different way, and together you can still adhere to the message that is being conveyed in the film itself. But it definitely is changing. I really hope it's not the new normal for a very long time, but again, safety is first. I know stage 3 is up and running, but again, it comes down to, are you actually comfortable going, right? Are you going to take that chance? And especially if it's a movie like Mulan or, Disney, for any feature like that, kids are going to be involved, right? Do you want to take your kids to, a theater at this time, right? I don't think that's, it's your decision. Again, the stage 3 is there, but again, it comes down to personal preference, right? And then you can connect that for staying home and then watching everything from home. But again, for me personally, the experience of going to the theater is different. You get to get out of the house, you get to enjoy the big screen, because not everyone I know has a big screen, right? You want to see that full-fledged film in that experience, right? So for me, definitely it is a little disappointing, but again, for now, I can kind of deal with it in terms of being health conscious and safe, but hopefully it won't last for too long.
Yeah, well, especially, with movies like Christopher Nolan's Tenet, which was shot completely in IMAX.
Yeah.
So there's that experience that you wouldn't get from home.
Exactly.
Going to a movie theater. Benji, you do a lot of documentary style films, a lot of also reporting. like what's your thoughts on this shift? Is this something that you're welcoming, or is this something that you're maybe thinking about, hey, maybe down the line I would have, if I'd worked on a massive documentary, I would have loved to have a premiere in a movie theater?
Yeah, it's challenging just to wrap my head around like what to expect for the future / how I feel about safety with it, and then also like what are the opportunities in other areas to be able to still present work. So it's kind of going back to Neha's point, like, is it necessarily safe? Like, even with 50 people in the theater, it's like, if you think about it, one enclosed space, everyone is sitting there for however many hours, breathing. Like if we're breaking it down to the molecular level of science, you get a lot of those particles in the air, and it's like, you know what?
All those droplets.
The droplets, the subatomic level right there.
Yeah, if you look at it in that sense, it's like, is it worth all of that just to be able to see the screening? And it's like, as much as we want that experience that movie theaters always traditionally gave us, it's like we have to almost step back and be like, how can we shift and still be able to give people something that they can connect with in a similar way? And who knows, it may take time to figure out what that answer is, but I think movie theaters will come back in a few years, but they'll probably be a different experience than what it was before.
Yeah.
I think people are going to try to be mindful of spacing and just understanding how that's going to look and feel. But overall, I feel as if, though, like, the shift is almost going to come as something where I think most movies are probably going to jump to getting on subscription-based platforms, but I think certain very special occasions, they're going to be in theaters. And I think I'm saying this in a wake of reading a certain article where I noticed that when AMC was going out of business, Amazon actually bought the theaters, and everyone was kind of confused at the start. And Amazon was thinking, hey, well, we have our Prime division, so what we might do is do special screenings for certain films if it's the first time around. Now, to how scaled those will be, who knows? Like, they may only invite certain numbers of people. They may only be maybe once every quarter or so in the year. But I'm like, maybe that's what the new experience is. You can go to the movie theater, there's gonna be way fewer people, and maybe it doesn't happen as often. So when it is an experience, it's like a very big deal in that sense. Versus right now, people have access to go. Is it safe to go? Not necessarily, but like, if you went to a movie theater and this is one of your few opportunities for the year, you might look at it a little bit differently then too. And they might do certain things to cater to make it that much more special when you do go.
Yeah, that's a great point you bring up, because I was having a conversation with my buddy who works for a sports network, and we were talking about the NBA coming back. And quite frankly, I found it very enjoyable. Like, even though again, they have like the fake crowd sound, and they've been able to incorporate Microsoft Teams across the entire venue to, show fans or maybe logging in via the app and create that crowd atmosphere. But in hindsight, we were talking about it. Hey, if this becomes like the new normal moving forward, when you have the opportunity to go back to a sports game and being able to sit in the audience, or going to a movie theater and being able to enjoy a movie, it definitely will feel more special, and you'll probably have a heightened expectation regarding what that experience is all about versus, again, going to a movie theater on a Friday night because you have nothing else to do, right? And almost taking that experience for granted. Like, it almost adds that bit of specialness to it. And on the flip side, some people were saying that, hey, if you take a big budget movie like a Milan as an example, and I think there's been some rumblings around Black Widow as well, potentially going the same route. Are you, instead of doing that big theatrical release, are you more so putting it on your own platform, which actually might increase the amount of people that see it, right? Because they're probably sitting around and it's an option, and maybe somebody wouldn't want to, maybe never thought about going to the movie theater to watch Milan, but because it's readily available on Disney Plus, they'll turn it on and they'll check it out. Like, is that the balance? If you don't get that physical experience, are you compensating it with more eyeballs? I don't know, Neha, what do you think?
I feel like at this point, when it comes to like streaming, to platforms like that from home, like their main goal then is like, hey, like, everyone's home right now, so like this is the best option, right? And we're gonna get the most viewership. And if you have subscriptions, like if you don't have it, like now's your time to get it, right? So for that, I think it comes down to like the business of the game, I guess, right? Like and where are we going to get the most output of this, right? In terms of viewership, in terms of revenue, or like whatever the case is, like where am I going to get the most hype, right? So right now, no movie theaters, no worries, right? Like we got you covered, right? So I feel like it's like that, like they're trying to just, where is it more accessible at this time? And I mean, like certain things, like for TV shows, for example, like I wouldn't mind like a Netflix premiere or like a Amazon Prime premiere, because I know like that's the nature of like the medium that we're watching. But in terms of like certain films, like like maybe I'll like skip this, or like I'll just wait for it in the future or whatever. But again, we don't know where that future is right now, and how it's going to be experience wise, right? I'm talking from that perspective. But I think that they just want to jump to that opportunity, like let's release it, let's get that audience going, like that viewership, that revenue stream, and make it the best experience ever, but from your home, right? So I think they're using that opportunity, and maybe it is a game changer. I don't know. Like I don't know if that's going to be the new norm for a while, but I really hope it isn't. Like I said before, but again, based on what's going on right now, I think that's a smart move in that way. But again, depending on your personal choice and preference, like convenience, is that a good thing, right? Is I don't have to leave my house. So it all comes down to, it has a lot of factors, I think, in play. But from perspective, I think it is a hit or a miss when it comes to that.
Yeah, the business aspect of it's an interesting one too, because again, a lot of big budget studios would rely on movie ticket sales to break even, right?
Exactly.
And now the model changes drastically when you're producing these big budget movies like Mulan or a Black Widow, or even a Tenet as an example with Christopher Nolan's film, and trying to break even through streaming, because there are, again, it's no secret that a lot of these streaming platforms do have to lose money at the start just to get people to sign up, and then eventually they hope to see a profit at a certain subscription level.
Exactly.
Would this speed it up? I don't know. Maybe it will. But again, Disney's Disney, right? They have deep pockets. but it also takes content ownership to a different level as well. And I'm curious to get both your thoughts on this. Like, do you think this will eventually lead to a different style of thinking when it comes to, hey, you know what? Based on this experience, we maybe don't need to go to a movie theater. We can just go and put it out ourselves and not have to worry about distribution because we're distributing our own content.
Yeah, I think if we're looking at it like that way, I definitely there's going to be some shift in the approach for sure. Like people are going to have to start turning to these different mediums so you'll get the message out. And I think a bigger play right now is, if it's going to be shifting to online, it's going to be advertising. And like, because before a lot of the big things were showing movie trailers at the start, and that was something that some people really look forward to going.
Oh yeah, dude, I never wanted this.
Sure.
Yeah. You honestly, sometimes you'll see a trailer, you're like, I need to see that.
See that, I'm coming back.
Even if you like are going to watch like a big budget movie, sometimes you'd hear, oh hey, you may want to watch the trailers because they're showing like the trailer for this movie that's coming out next year, right? And you're like, okay, cool, I got to be there because I want to see what's going on.
Right.
But it's like, I think at the end of the day, like advertising might be the new big shift now, because if these companies that want to advertise want to get their dollars out and they want to be able to get in front of these eyeballs, if everyone's doing it from home, that's probably the easiest way for them to do it and probably save more money than going through the theater route. Mm-hmm. So who knows? Like it's going to take some work figuring out what this model would look like. But I think advertising might be the way to step in and almost make I don't want to say make way, but maybe sub in where some of those dollars would have been lost at the theaters with ticket sales revenue generated. But who knows? Like it could take a lot of different shifts. But I almost think we're just in this trial stage where we're seeing a lot of different things being applied, but we'll see what ends up retaining and becoming a bit more of a norm.
I'm surprised that we haven't seen a huge uptake in like drive-in theaters, right? Like we've been seeing like drive-in concerts. We talked about it a few weeks ago on the show. Like that seems to be something that people are experimenting with. But the drive-in movie theater experience, like I'm surprised that a Cineplex hasn't just flat out found location.
Yeah.
I go, like the drive-in's a fun experience. Like I think it'll work better than a concert.
I agree. And I did a drive-in a few weeks ago and I loved it. And I was like, wow, this is something I need to do more often because you almost get you get to create your own experience in your car. And then, like if the movie's set up well for you, positioning wise, they have the food vendors, you can go and get food. Yeah. Maybe this is something you got to pitch to the movie theaters.
Exactly.
You're giving me
I'm down. Because see, again, it comes down to the experience of it, right? Like it's a night out. You're still maintaining, social distancing. You're still safe in your own vehicle, and you still have that experience too. And I think that, especially for summer, like that's an amazing feel. And in winter, obviously, it's kind of hard, but again, who knows? Maybe it'll be a heated area, even more than your car, right? Like,
yeah. No, that's one thing I'm trying to wrap my head around is why haven't we seen these companies just, again, like for example, MLSC just announced that at Ontario Place they're going to show the Raptors playoff games, and to me, I'm thinking, why doesn't a Cineplex, who normally has gigantic parking lots, like with the size in Queensway, even in Brampton, Silver City's huge. Mm-hmm. Like these are gigantic parking lots. Why not just try to create like an enclosed experience and be able to utilize that space that's probably empty right now? Like even though we're in stage 3, I don't know anyone in my close circle that's excited to go to a movie theater. I think a lot of people are more so like, maybe not. And I know Cineplex a few weeks ago, or I believe about a week ago, they were charging like $5 tickets to get people to come through the door. And yeah, it's a tough one right now. It's a tough one. And again, Benji, going back to the way you described it, I don't know how I feel about those droplets.
Too many particles that
too many.
You don't know which ones are the okay ones and which are not. But in that room, the longer you're in your room, the longer you're susceptible to,
Yeah, that's not very safe.
Well, the movies are long too, right? You're sitting in like a 2.5 hour movie probably. Like a Mulan probably like that. Tenet's probably like that. Like no one's really making short movies anymore, right? So that's an interesting one. If you had, just to kind of close this topic out, if you had a prediction as to where movie theaters will be in a year, what would that be? And Neha, we'll begin with you.
I think they're going to be, where we are right now. I think that's going to be sort of like the normal for me, and more streaming is going to be done, through your homes, I think, and they're going to kind of opt to that, unless they have some next crazy scheme planned, to transform the next movie theater. But I think, again, it involves money, it involves the time and the marketing, and, if you had anticipated that from the beginning, then the outlook would be different. But I still feel that it's going to be like sort of like this for the next year or so, for sure.
Yeah, because to your point, even doing renovations to existing theaters, like where is that? Like that's just added cost, right?
Exactly. Why would we do that, for example, right? In terms of like a business perspective, why would we renovate something when we can just, digitally premiere this on our subscription and save that money and use that towards another, launch or something like that, right? So again, when you're trying to save that dollar, like that's where it comes down to. And you have that, constant head-to-head with a business versus like, going out to just have an experience at the movies, right? So I think this is going to be going on for a bit. Hopefully not too long. That's all I say. But again, safety is first, right? That's all I kind of harp these days, because you don't know, right? You don't know, the good particles versus the bad. You don't know, and you don't want to put yourself in that situation. So yeah, that's where I think it's going to be.
Yeah, Benji, what's your prediction about movie theaters in a year from now?
I think it's going to be a mix of a few different things, and I mean, One of them, my hope being the idea you pitched before about, drive-in theaters, but I see it being something where they're going to have to almost for every season figure out like how is it going to adjust. Like they need to be able to have something for outdoors in the summer. They need to be able to have something where in the winter they can adjust. And it's like maybe there's some type of experience that they can be able to do with people where it's not overcrowded, but it can be able to accommodate people, but make it unique, but not necessarily in a traditional movie theater. I don't know what that experience would look like, but I could see them trying to carve out or craft something that can fit that mold, it be safe. So I don't know. I think in the midst of it, streaming is still going to be on the rise. They're definitely going to need to get more creative with it just because, like sometimes you go to the movie theater and there's just certain things you can't take away. So how can they bring that to people in home? Like, are they going to do maybe contests where, if you get selected, you either get something sent to you that, let's say it's like the 3D goggles or whatever it may be, or maybe it's a very unique experience that you get with watching it. Just finding a way just to be able to just one-up it is what I think needs to happen with the streaming. But then in terms of experiential, like in person, I personally don't know what would happen in the winter months, but I still am stuck on that drive-in idea. I think it's great. But to build on it, it's probably very scalable, right? Like you buy out a drive-in theater that's already there, and you find ways to elevate that, and all of a sudden, more people are going to want to go, because it's like if a new movie is showing, if the food is better, if they have like different ways to be able to, just make it very, very fan focused. Like I think people would be like, I want to do this. Like I can get outside, but I could still feel cozy in my car, right?
Totally. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one to watch for sure. Like, again, I think it's a tough one, and I my thoughts go out to anyone in this industry, especially on the theater side of things, because it's not really a clear path. Like there hasn't been like a clear path in any of this during the pandemic, but we've seen sports come back and they're doing their best to make it work. So hopefully there is some type of solve that the theaters can utilize, and again, maybe it's a back to basics style approach where, hey, maybe it is going back to drive-ins and utilizing those big parking lots and seeing what kind of experiences they can create. And again, to Benji, to the point you were making about mimicking that experience, homemade popcorn isn't the same as movie theater popcorn, right?
Exactly. I was just going to say, I was like, that's like the first thing that gets you, you walk in, it's like the smell of popcorn. Like, where am I going to get that? Like at home, it's a hit or a miss there too. Like, it's not the same, but that's like, something that's very like special too, right? To feel and like to get that ambiance. Exactly.
I want to thank the both of you for joining me here on New Theory Radio. Some fun chats, and this is the time for that both of you can promote whatever you have going on. Neha, we've been mentioning your movies, so this is your time to really let us know what the movie's about and how people can watch it, and the floor is yours.
So definitely Just Breathe is premiering at IFFSA virtual 2020 this year. It's going to be premiering on Tuesday, August 11th at 6:30. So the film is centered around like mental health awareness and how like that's a crucial part of our lives nowadays, even more so than before. It's a take on that. It's a short film, but it's something that's, very resonates with me very well in terms of, the South Asian perspective and even like, conversations of mental health. They're very taboo. And I think this is one stepping stone where, I want to share this moment to like, put that out there and hopefully in the future tell even more stories. So definitely I'm excited for that. The whole team has been, worked very hard on this and to put it together. So it is a different approach, but definitely do check it out at ifsatoronto.com. You can sign up for your free virtual passes and let me know what you think. You can hit me up on Instagram also at Neha Modgil Photography. Also my production page also, which is Mod Film Productions. So I'm excited about this, and hopefully, this is going to be gearing up for more stories to come.
Awesome. Yeah, this is your second movie, right?
Yes, it's correct. Yeah, second one.
Awesome. Well, good for you. Great job keeping it up. I heard some great things about your first release, and looking forward to checking out this one. I think.
Thank you so much.
is so important amongst our communities. And I know, keep at it. I'm sure with IFFSA's new virtual format, you're going to be able to reach a lot more people. So this is going to be great. Yeah,
it's exciting. You're still part of the excitement. You're still part of it. And that's all I look forward to, at this point. You celebrate what you've created and what you've put out there. So, I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, and I want to add Sunny, and we had him on the show a couple weeks ago. Like, the platform that they've created, like, virtually is so user-friendly. So, very easy to sign up. And again, I've already made my selections. I've added your film to that as well. So
thank you so much.
It's I can't wait. I can't wait to check it out and Chromecast it to my big screen.
Awesome. There you go.
That's the new normal, right?
Exactly.
Benji, what about you, man? What do you got on the go?
I got a few projects in the works. I can't necessarily drop the information on it because it's still
snap.
I can't. I'm not. I don't got as much going on as you, Neha, but a couple cool projects in the works. But I would say, stay tuned. If you guys want to follow me on Instagram, it's Benji.Agbeke, and that's BenjiAgbeke. Going to be sharing a lot more stuff. I know I've been a little bit more quiet on social media for the past few months, but
it's been working.
Doing a thing. So stay tuned for some new stuff dropping this year.
Awesome. That sounds awesome. I really appreciate both of you for sharing some time with us to talk about these topics. And whenever you guys want to come back to NTR, the invitation is definitely available. We always love talking with creatives and being able to get you to talk about other creative things, which are always going on in the world of arts and pop culture. We are going to take a quick commercial break, and then when we come back, we're going to have more New Theory Radio here live on News Talk, Saga 968.
You are listening to New Theory Radio. NTR Spotlight.
We are back here on New Theory Radio, here live on News Talk, Saga 960 AM. My name is Nav Nanwa. I am your host, and this is the show where we theorize on all things arts and pop culture. And it is about that time for our weekly NTR Spotlight, where we like to profile an artist or a creative that's truly pushing the arts and culture scene forward, not just within Peel, but across the world. And I'm truly honored to have joining me on this week's episode someone who's truly a mainstay in the Brampton community. Established in Brampton in 2006, Jade's Hip Hop Academy, or JHHA, as you might know it as, has built an impressive reputation from outstanding competition results and numerous electrifying performances in the Brampton community, Southern Ontario, and on YouTube. The talent and quality of work has landed Jade's Hip Hop Academy on many shows and platforms all across North America, and they've also shared and been reposted by various celebrities such as Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Missy Elliott, Paul Abdul, Chris Brown, Iggy Azalea, just to name a few. And I'm honored right now to be talking to the artistic director and the founder of Jade's Hip Hop Academy, someone, like I mentioned earlier, a true mainstay in Brampton and actually a friend for quite some time. I have Jade, Jager Clark joining me. Jade, thanks so much for making time for us here at NTR.
Well, thank you for having me.
Long overdue. I've been wanting to have you on the show for quite some time, so I'm glad we're able to make this happen.
Yes, me as well.
So I want to start all the way back because honestly, I saw you and your Hip Hop Academy. My first interactions were just your awesome routines on social media, and then eventually seeing you appear on the Ellen Show back in 2015. But I've always wondered, how did you get your start in dance?
Well, I started dancing, teaching, and choreographing all at the same time when I was 14 years old. And when I started an extracurricular, non-audition based dance group at my high school. Because if you didn't make the main dance team, there was absolutely no other opportunity within your school to dance. And yeah, so it progressed from there. Then I started teaching at the YMCA and I actually got my fitness certification. And then that was all in Peterborough. And then when I moved to Brampton to go to Humber College, I transferred to the Brampton YMCA. And after a year there, I opened my studio.
Amazing. And then what was it about dance that really excited you, that really got you moving?
I was just always raised with like so many different types of music. So a pastime at my house was just putting on music and dancing. So it was just always something that I love to do as a form of expression.
Were there any songs or any artists in particular that got you moving?
Oh my gosh, like my mother played so many different artists. Like we would have everything from soca and calypso to the Bodyguard soundtrack by Whitney Houston was on repeat. So I know that one forward to backwards. James Brown, Michael Jackson. My mom loved Motown, Temple of Motown, soul. So yeah, I was really raised with so much. So I really have a musical appreciation for a lot of different types of music.
Did you come from a family of dancers? Like, was there any dancing backgrounds amongst your parents?
I came from a family of artists, so I'll say that, painters, poets, and yeah, my mom did ballet for some time.
Oh, nice.
And I know both my parents love to be on the dance floor as well, so yeah.
That's awesome. And what's great about Jade's Hip Hop Academy is that your mom is a big part of it. Like if anyone that pays attention to your social media or even just your entire journey running the academy, she's been at your side. How has that been for you?
Well, the way that it happened is the first year that I started the studio, I did it on my own. I had 18 students. We just did twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I was actually still a full-time college student at Humber College in the Fashion Arts program.
Nice.
And yeah, kind of after that first year ended, people were like, "So, what's next?" You know, and I was like, you know, at that point, I hadn't really thought of owning a dance studio full-time. It just came from I was teaching drop-in for so long that I wanted to establish something where kids could come and learn and do it on a long-term basis instead of just being there for a year and dropping out and doing other things. And yeah, so the first year I did it on my own. And then by the second year, my mom could see that I needed some help because to be able to do the creative, but then both the administration of where you're handling clients and payments and all this kind of stuff. So she actually quit her job and started working for me. Yeah, she's a former international business consultant, so that worked in my favor.
It did, yeah.
And yeah, so she's just been doing the administration ever since, and I've been doing the creative, and it works really well. You know, you hear a lot of horror stories in business of, you know, it's hard to find people you trust. So it's been great having my mom there, and we just have a unique relationship where we're able to kind of be like boss and employee, you know, at the studio, but then we still kind of have that like mother-daughter dynamic like once we're outside of the studio. So it works well.
It actually reminds me of a conversation I had a few weeks ago with a rapper by the name of Claremont II, and his brother is actually his manager. And we were talking about that in greater detail, and he was saying that it has a lot of benefits because again, it's you're involving somebody that you really trust, that's someone that you know have grown up with, and in your case, your mom raised you. And when you have like a dispute or when you have a misalignment, it's easier to work things out, or it's easier to get through it because you know you're related to that person versus you know if you have a business partner that you know you joined up with maybe during your college days and you guys had differing opinions, it could go a certain way. Well, no matter what, your mom's kind of stuck with you. So it's like that benefit of just having family involved. Like I thought it was a unique perspective.
No, it's definitely, a lot of people are like, how do you do it? And like, to me, it's so normal that I'm like, yeah, like technically, I guess for a lot of people it might not work, but for us it really works. And I'm really happy to have her there. And so are our clients. Like, a lot of the dancers actually grow up thinking of my mom as their second mom or their grandmother even. Awesome. And yeah, there's a lot of counseling that goes on at her front desk for parents and everything. So yeah, we're a real family at the studio, and she's a big part of that.
When you were doing your drop-ins and going through college, did you ever think about becoming a dancer full time? Like, did that ever cross your mind? Like, maybe just going out and maybe going down that route and maybe joining up with a professional company, or was teaching something that you were always interested in?
Well, when I started teaching at 14, I really fell in love with it. There is so much joy and, satisfaction of being able to take people who are new to dance, haven't danced before, and, guiding them, molding them, teaching them, and that sense of achievement when they get the routine and we hit the stage and we perform. I mean, that's what I love so much about teaching. And so, that was something I knew I always loved. I didn't know it was going to become my career because I had my sights set on going to New York, because Humber College had a joint program with a school in New Jersey. So I was supposed to do 2 years of a diploma, finish 2 years there and get a degree. And then I wanted to go to Parsons, which is one of the #1 design schools. And so that was my goal. I wanted to be a fashion event producer, fashion designer. Like, that's really where I wanted to go. And when people were like, hey, you only have this one competitive program, have you ever considered doing recreational or adult classes or taking on younger students? I really stopped to think from, okay, yeah, why not? Let's try it. I mean, I love it. I love dancing. I love creating. Yeah. I love teaching. I love mentoring. I love seeing my students grow. So why not? And yeah, we never really looked back from then.
Well, exactly. Well, if you look at the accolades that your academy has been able to get, I would say over the last, 5 years, truly phenomenal. Like, some of them include, like I mentioned earlier, you've been featured on national television, not just within Canada, but across North America. You've opened up for the First Lady, Michelle Obama, which is awesome. I know she's an idol of my wife. So again, I know she's probably digging that. I've actually seen you do Raptors and Raptors 905 halftime shows. So I think that's amazing. And one of the gigs that I thought you totally did amazing at was a couple years ago. Director X had his Brampton Walk of Fame ceremony, and you were, I guess you were the artistic director. Like, you were the one that kind of put all of it together in a way. Is that what I heard? Yeah.
That was a huge undertaking because Director X has over 75 music videos that he's directed.
A lot.
The city was like, can you do a dance tribute? And I was like, okay. So I thought it would be really
which ones
to kind of do like his. So what we did was we chose different music videos, a different variety, and then we actually where there was choreography, we learned the original choreography of the video and we redid it. Where there wasn't choreography, I created my own. And because I knew he worked with Canadian artists that I had access to, like Maestro Fresh West, who we've performed with before, Carl Wolf, who's a friend of mine, and I reached out to Chaclair. So we actually got them into the performance to surprise X. So it was a lot of coordination, and then I had to also get like the music video content for the background. So the cool thing was that the original music video played in the background while we were doing the dance in the front. So it was a phenomenal experience, huge undertaking. Again, there were about 30 dancers. We managed to do, I think, 17 different music videos.
Wow.
So that was a fun one.
I was in the audience when I saw that, and the little kid in me was just nerding out, the little Canadian hip hop fan, because again, I tell people all the time, like growing up, being exposed to much music, when you would see a Maestro video or a Chaclair video or a Cardinal Vishal video, when you're like 10 to 15 years old, you don't really understand like boundaries, right? You just assume when you see someone on TV that they're famous because like TV was like the end all be all. And I've always held those MCs kind of in the same vein as, you know, I would hold like a Jay-Z or Nas, right, growing up. And be able to see you not only bring to life these classic music videos, but get these artists involved at the same time, I was just nerding out the entire time. I was literally like, I remember Greg Petty from the city of Brampton was sitting close to me, and he's like, "You're loving this, aren't you?" I'm like, "Dude, I'm in love with this." Yeah, so
thank you for
that.
No worries.
But again, like with me kind of listing out a lot of your accolades, what's been your like one of your biggest highlights for you personally, and then maybe one for the Academy?
Oh gosh, I would say there's 3. We've done 9 Raptors halftimes.
Wow.
And over the last, I think since 2017 is when we started doing them. We've enjoyed every single one. We got asked to do Giants of Africa. We've done a bunch of OVOs, and then we do the games for the superfan Nav Nanwa. We collaborate with House of Bhangra, and we do Bhangra and hip hop together. So nice. Each one has been a unique challenge, but I think for us, in that realm, our dance that we did for Giants of Africa, we actually combined basketball and dance.
Oh, wow.
So we did a whole dance of like where they were doing like simple basketball drills, but like rhythmically to the music. And then the other half was dancing. And that dance actually ended up on NBA.com.
Wow. That is sick.
So I was like, and I was looking at NBA.com. I'm like, there's literally nothing else here but games. I'm like, my dance our piece made it to NBA.com. So that was definitely a highlight for me.
Amazing.
Our Soca video, the one where we had Like a Boss by Michelle Montano, went viral all over the world. It ended up on the news in Trinidad and Tobago.
Oh, snap.
And it has like over 2 million views on Facebook. And it was so much so that like when we would go places and we would, I remember afterwards we went to a show and a choir was like, "Oh my God, you guys are that dance group from the video." Like we were getting recognized like on the street for doing this. So that was cool. And like so many Trinis were like, "Oh my God, like you brought like our culture, our music to like that platform." And like at the time I was like, "Yo, Like a Boss is just a fire song. Like it belongs in an arena." And I had no idea the impact that piece would have just on a whole culture, community, nationality group of people. So that was really cool for me personally to see that like a piece we did really inspired and brought so much joy. That's awesome. And right now, one of our Bhangra hip hop collaborations is climbing in views every day. So we're at about 2.5 million on YouTube. So it's really cool to see. You have Canadians being really proud. You have a lot of people from India and Pakistan being really proud to see like Bhangra, Punjabi culture, like all of that. So like the comments are like super nice to read. So that's on the Raptors side. I think for us, the biggest one or one of the biggest ones was when we were invited to perform at the, the retirement of Dalton McGuinty, the premiere. And for us, that was huge because we're getting asked to do hip hop dance like at a political convention. So this was back in 2013, and we had 75 kids. We went to Maple Leaf Gardens. We did a huge kind of flash mob type thing where there was a group that started on the stage, and then there were groups that were down the aisles. And we got to sit, and I told the kids, I was like, you know what? I have no idea how politicians are going to react, because it's true, right? Like you never know. I'd never been in that type of an arena.
Yeah.
And it was the Liberal Leadership Convention or something like that. And we got a standing ovation.
Amazing.
And that for me, I was like, wow, I just took hip hop dance by a diverse group of youth into the political arena, and like we were able to get that standing ovation. So for me, that was a highlight.
But if you think about the power of dance, like again, being able to get a standing ovation from a room full of politicians just goes to show how much dance can mean to everyday people, right? Like, I think it just shows you the power of just being able to move and being able to put something together that just looks visually in sync and visually appealing. And And I remember, as you were talking through that example, I remember hosting the Brampton Business Awards. Actually, I'm not sure if it was the year that I hosted. Maybe it was the year before I got to host. But I think I believe that you and the entire dance pack were actually doing the dance in the audience, right? And then you guys went to the stage. Was that? True. And I remember thinking, like, hey, this is the Brampton Business Awards, like one of the more, I don't know, conservative events where people are just kind of there and mixing and mingling, networking, and all of a sudden you guys turned into a party. And I remember telling Todd after, I was like, you guys need to, have Jade like every year, because like everyone, like I've never seen the crowd so amped before. Like heading into a long night of awards. Shout out to Todd Letts.
Yeah, that was I forgot about that one. Yeah, we kind of just pretended. Oh yeah, the kids pretended they were opening the doors. That's what we did.
Oh, okay.
We were that was another flash mob. We were undercover, and the kids were at I think it was the Pearson Convention Center, and they were just pretending like they were helping and standing at the doors and greeting and saying welcome. And then, when the event kicked off, that's when they came out and danced. I remember that one.
I think I noticed it because like I remember literally just talking to somebody, and then like there was like a group of kids around me that just started dancing, and I was like, whoa, what's happening? should I start dancing too? Like, is this actually a flash mob that's happening? But no, it was super hype. And that's one of the things I wanted to ask you about too, is if anyone that pays attention to the work that you've done and seen you on social, you have this very unique bond with your students. And what's awesome is just seeing students that are so, like, seeing the ages of some of your students and the talent that they have at such a young age. It just makes you think about when they get older, and just truly the sky's the limit regarding where they can go and what they can do. How have you kind of gone about creating that connection? It sounds like it started when you were 14 years old and you started teaching, but what's been the Jade secret sauce in regards to being able to relate to these kids at such an early age and being able to mold them and being able to mentor them?
Well, early on in the business, I decided that one of my mandates would be to bring out the full potential of all of my students. And on that journey, part of that is, as a teacher or a coach, you have a choice. If you see that you have a student or an athlete that is not, being themselves, right? If they're kind of a little bit off or sad or angry, you can make a choice. You can make a choice to let it be and not address it and hope it solves itself. Or you can take that little bit of extra time to just, ask them, what's going on? Is there something wrong? And that's just something that I started doing early on because I didn't want to let it be, right? Like, I mean, if you're in my class and I see that you're sad or something's distracting you from the dance, I'm going to take that time to ask what's up. And in asking my students that, I would often find that, they were having trouble with bullies at school. They were having trouble with their grades. They were having trouble with, maybe they had an argument with their parents right before they came to the studio, or, their friends had backstabbed them and were gossiping about them, and so through that, I would often just help my students overcome these hurdles, especially the bullying, because some kids would be bullied about their dancing, right? Being made fun of for kids because they were really good, and the other kids were intimidated, so they were trying to find a way to bring them down. So what some of my kids have done is they would start not trying their best and trying to kind of like hold back in class. And I was like, no. So that's kind of how like we have that really strong bond, especially with certain students who have been with me for over 10 years, is there's been a lot of life lessons and a lot of mentoring through the dance classes. And like I was bullied when I was younger. I went through a phase. I used to have glasses, like now glasses and braces are cool, but back when we were kids, like it wasn't cool. I got made fun of for the volume of my hair. And I really had a tough time. So at JHHA, like we really have a zero tolerance for bullying, and I just want the kids to feel welcome. I want them to feel safe. I think people thrive in an environment where they feel loved and welcomed. So those became very important aspects for me. And so I really drive the family atmosphere as much as I can. There's a sense of responsibility. So for example, if I have multiple generations in a performance, the older ones are given the responsibility, look after your younger brother and sisters, and
Nice.
that's just how we operate. And I wouldn't honestly know any other way to do it. I mean, I've heard stories of parents who say, oh yeah, my daughter or son was in a dance class and they didn't even know the names of like the kids in the class with them for like the whole year. And I'm like, really?
That's crazy, considering that, again, like I'm assuming that your classes are a big time commitment, right? Because obviously you're teaching them new routines, you're getting them ready for different performances, and to me, it's like almost an extension of what they're probably doing in school, right? Like they have probably their school days, and they head over to your studio and do their thing. I guess that community aspect is so important and such a crucial part of development. But let's talk about the last couple months. It's no secret that the pandemic has definitely impacted a lot of people's lives. Unfortunately, it's impacted the operations of your academy. What's been that journey like? What's been that journey for you in regards to being able to navigate this new normal that we live in?
COVID hit us really hard, because the lockdown was there, so we couldn't be in the studio, so all of a sudden, I had to figure out, how do we keep going? How do we keep the classes going? And, we switched over to Zoom. We put our entire program on Zoom, and Zoom wasn't perfect either, because sometimes there was a lag and a delay on like visuals and music. So it was tough. It was tough for the kids to kind of feel that energy, right? Because you're missing the energy of your entire class. It's just you at home in your room. You can see everybody else, but it's not the same. So a lot of me was like, come on, guys, like, let's go. And I know it's just a computer, but give me all your energy. What was tough is that, my old landlord, because we moved to a new space, I mean, he didn't really care, didn't check in, made us pay full rent for, March, April, May, June. So that was tough. It was frustrating. Let's just put it that way. It was frustrating. And then initially they had studios to reopen in stage 5. So I was like, are you kidding me? Yeah. So that was tough to see, like, okay, so malls can open, public pools can open, but my studio can't. I was like, how does that make any sense?
Yeah.
It took away so competitions got canceled. Our end of year recital got canceled. Oh no! Which is usually a huge fundraiser for us, and it helps us cover like rent for the summer months when we're usually closed. We couldn't run any summer camps. We did one virtually, which worked well, but it just wasn't the same. And stop it. Okay. Part of the new normal, doing interviews at home where your pets can interrupt.
Oh, were the cats ever at the studio or what?
At the old one, we tried once, but the space was too big. They got overwhelmed. They're like, where was I? Where were we?
No, and again, I think a lot of your challenges are very similar to even to some of the small businesses that I've been able to have conversations with regarding COVID and the pivots and almost the fact that we're not in a normal point in life right now, how that's really impacted day-to-day operations. But you mentioned that originally you had heard that dance studios were going to be open in phase 5. So it looks like phase 3 they have been able to be open, and obviously under very crucial or very important safety protocol. But I wanted to ask, this is a great sort of opportunity to pick up momentum again. How do you plan to bounce back? Because I heard that you actually are offering a virtual dance program. So tell me more about that.
Yeah, so now that we are able to be open, our first focus is our grand opening. We moved into a brand new 8,000 square foot facility.
Ooh, nice.
Which we are totally really, really excited about. And actually next week, now that we can have all of our dancers back in, we're filming a grand opening dance. We've also retrofitted our entire studio to be safe for social distancing and for COVID. So we've got the studios are gridded, you know, so every dancer has a taped off section. A lot of studios are doing this, and it's really and truly the best way to make sure that there is that 6 feet / 2 meters apart. So we've got the plexiglass, the hand sanitizing stations everywhere. We've got the signage to have their masks on when they enter the studio. So we've got all of that done now. So we're super excited to see our dancers again next week and to have our grand opening on August 22nd and 23rd, which, by the way, you're invited. And we just plan to bounce back. I think the kids have been tired of being at home and just dancing in front of their computers. So it's going to be a lot of energy. And one thing that we did find in this reopening process, now we started enrollment because, we're phase 3, we can get going, is about 15% of our clients have expressed concern about the virus. You know, they have people within their family whose immunity is compromised, immune system is compromised, and they've just decided to be extra safe and not enroll their dancers this year due to the virus. So between that and the fact that Zoom, despite its technical difficulties, did work well to keep the classes going, we decided, you know what, why don't we add a virtual element to our studio so that these kids that are at home can still train in the programs that they were in. Plus, we have always had in our 15-year existence a lot of requests for us to open other locations, whether it be in the East End, North, farther west from here. Everyone's like, when are you going to do it? And I'm always like, I'm only one person. But now, if you lived too far away from the studio before, now we have a brand new virtual training program that you can take part, and you can learn at Jade's Hip Hop Academy no matter where you are in the province, in the country, or in the world. So we're very excited to offer that. So that's a brand new element. I think that's one of the positive things that came out of COVID, is being able to design a whole new program. And these programs will run in sessions, and with the option at the end to actually meet at the studio. Oh, nice. For like an in-person performance for the people that are within the country that can make it, or within the province, I should say.
That's awesome.
The people who can't will perform alongside virtually. But so it's we're really looking forward to that, and it's a good alternative for anyone who was thinking of, you know what, we want our kids to stay active, we're worried about the virus, but at least this is the best way to achieve those goals.
And that's truly been the silver lining with all of this, right? And I think the example you bring up and how you've been able to expand, but virtually, is a great way to think about it, right? Because again, a normal expansion would require a lot of overhead costs. You know, again, you mentioned that you're just one person, so being able to stretch your time is going to be tough as well. But if you think about it, now that you're offering this new virtual program, you could truly take Jade's Hip Hop Academy worldwide, right? And it can happen right out of your house in Brampton, or right out of your new 8,000 square feet studio, and that just allows your impact to become a lot greater, which is awesome. Yeah, that's great. What's just to kind of close out this interview, what's next for Jade, Miss Jade, and Jade's Hip Hop Academy?
Well, we were able to do a lot with our 2,300 square foot space. So now that we have 8,000 square feet, I mean, the type of, production level performances that we're now able to put together, we are truly super excited about. Whenever we did stuff for the Raptors or the Argos or Raptors 905, we're always rehearsing outside because we didn't have enough space. So the kids and I are so excited to be able to rehearse inside. And we have a lot of dreams in the realm of theater. We have a not-for-profit division called MyPAC, which stands for Metropolitan Youth Performing Arts Center. Nice. And under the guise of that, we really want to present, world-changing theatrical hip-hop theater dance pieces, that connect with an audience, a multi-generational audience, and raise awareness about world and social issues. So that's something that's dear to our heart that we want to expand upon. We can now grow our competitive programs, our recreational programs. We can have so many more students, because before we would always have waiting lists for our classes because we just didn't have the space. So we're really looking forward to that. And yeah, I mean, Ellen is obviously like our top highlight, right? So maybe, you know, we can work towards, you know, going viral again, being on her show. When it's safe to travel, we definitely want to tour, you know, across Canada, North America, get back out to competing. So yeah, there's just lots of exciting things to look forward to. And it's Academy.
Awesome. Well, hey, we're totally going to be paying attention anytime that you want to come on New Theory Radio to talk about anything that you're doing. The invitation is always yours. Again, keep doing what you're doing. Honestly, I think when it comes to dance and just how it's perceived within Canada, and when you think about the greats within this country, I think your name and your academy always seems to come up in the conversation now. So
that's nice.
keep putting Brampton on the map, and keep doing your thing. And again, I'm super excited to see what you do with this 8,000 square feet facility. Like, I don't think people really realize how big 8,000 square feet
it's
is.
Definitely, there's always a reaction when people come in. They're like, oh my goodness. So I can't wait for you to see that. And yeah, you know, keep in touch with us on social media at Jade's Hip Hop Acad on Instagram and Twitter. You'll see all of our journeys, as you know, like we always put it in our stories, like all the developments and everything that we're doing. And then of course we have everything on our website, you know, www.jadeshiphopacademy.com as well. So yeah, no, it's been really fun talking about, you know, everything and kind of taking a trip down memory lane with you. So that's been great. And thank you so much for, you know, your ongoing support and loving what we do and giving us a chance to connect.
Anytime. And yeah, I gotta enroll my daughter in the year 2025. So when she's 5 years old. When she's 5 or 6, okay. Is that the right age?
No, we start at age 4, and we actually have mom and talk classes. So
really?
To think about it. Yeah, it's a new program we just started. So
okay, well, boom! You know, I'll get my wife to sign up too.
So technically, when she's 2, she can start coming with your wife, and there's also adult classes. So I'm just saying that's what we have now. It's also a new program.
Are you saying I need to know how to dance?
You can bring him out. And we can do the classes. That'd be great.
I might have to take you up on that, because my bunger moves can really use some help. So maybe you can link me up with some of your bunger peeps.
Sounds good.
Awesome. That's Miss Jade Jager Clark here for joining us here on New Theory Radio. Go check out Jade's Hip Hop Academy. Jade, thanks so much for joining us. And we are going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back here on New Theory Radio.
You are listening to New Theory Radio.
And welcome back to New Theory Radio, here live on News Talk, Saga 960 AM. My name is Nav Nanwa. I'm your host, and this is the show where we theorize on all things arts and pop culture. Thank you so much for tuning in to another amazing episode. Special thanks to my pop culture panel, Neha Modgil, as well as Benji Agbeke, as well as our NTR Spotlight, Jade, Jager, Clark from Jade's Hip Hop Academy. If you want to connect with us on New Theory Radio, it is at New Theory Radio across all social media platforms. If you want to connect with me, it is at Nav Nanwa on Instagram and Twitter. And if you want to connect with Saga 960 AM, it is at Saga 960 AM across all social platforms. Special thanks to my little brother Amit Nanwa, aka at Colorblind Photography _ for doing all of our graphics, and a big thank you to the man behind the boards at Dusty Loops, who is the producer of all the instrumentals that you heard on this week's episode. And yes, this does conclude another week's edition of NTR. And if you missed it, it does repeat again tomorrow, which is Monday between 8 to 10 p.m. And then the podcast version is out on Tuesday via Apple Podcasts and Spotify, which you can access at www.newtheoryradio.com. as well as www.saga960am.ca. Thank you so much, and you will hear all of us next time. Peace.
Right now, switch your family to T-Mobile and get 4 lines for $25 a line with AutoPay and 5G access included on America's largest 5G network. So don't wait. Get unlimited and nationwide 5G access for the whole family for just $25 a line. Visit a T-Mobile store or T-Mobile.com today.
Plus taxes and fees. Customers may notice lower speeds and further reduction if using over 50 gigs a month due to data prioritization. Video at 480p. Unlimited while on our network. Qualifying credit and 4+ lines required. Capable device required for 5G. Coverage not available in some areas. Some uses may require certain features. See T-Mobile.com.